Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Welcome back to MJB Podcast. I am Scott, your host, and I am super stoked about today's show. We have Lionel in the house, and I'll get into all that here in just a second. But I just want to talk briefly. Magazine Jukebox, digital entertainment hub for commercial spaces, hospitals, hotels, and I'll talk a little bit about the convention we just went to. But yeah, it's super exciting, and I'm ready to get this show running away and climbing the scales and whatever else you want to call it. So you YouTubers know more about this than I do. But yeah, so let me dive into our guest, and I'm super excited. So we have Lionel Sapp in the house, and Lionel and we actually met a couple of times here at the Assembly Building in Norfolk, and I was watching him really like these engineers. They just kind of get like in the zone, and it's always fun because I try to disrupt that and I ruin things for people. So, but no, it's Lionel, I'm excited to have you on the show. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And but before we dive into all this, one of the most important moments of the show, besides you, I guess you would say that this is the second most important moment, is our, what I like to call not pick your poison, the LinkedIn moments. And so I'm going to start that off now, and let's do this. So look, if you're on LinkedIn and you're my friend or you're connected to me and you don't want to be mentioned on this, then remove yourself or don't post anything positive. Then you won't be mentioned, because we only do positive stuff here. So this actually came from my buddy Adam Rossi. And if you don't know Adam, he is a very successful entrepreneur, exited his company. He's done very well. And what really glued me to him was his love and passion for others and for family. And so Adam posted this, and it's kind of a long trail, but he did a screenshot of this. And so I really like it. And you'll be able to see it on our channel. You'll see it posted. But Adam, I guess he posted on Twitter or X now, and the screenshot. It says, "Investing in seed stage startups is wild. You pour your love and attention into the champion seed, and they wither and die. Then you glance out the back window and see that a seed you chucked into the mulch pile 7 years ago has turned into a country fair winner." And this guy, I know he invests, and one day, Adam, maybe I'll get you to invest into MJB. But I just love his passion. I love his passion as a dad. And so I absolutely agree. Sometimes we don't always see our success until later, and sometimes it is in the rearview mirror. So great post. Thanks, Adam. And then the next one is actually, I haven't had the chance to meet Shannon, but it's Shannon McCallum. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. She's a vice president of hotel operations, resorts, and World Las Vegas. And she posted this Entrepreneur 20X with Lyle Withington, and is one of my most favorite events at the Hospitality, Financial, and Technology Professionals, HFTP. And it says, "Congratulations to all of the innovators that participated in an incredibly competitive contest." And I cannot agree more. I actually got to witness the show. I was there. It was kind of a last minute thing. And so me and my director of marketing and sales, Chad McFadder, we head down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I got to see these pitches. And in fact, two of them I've connected deeply with, and so I'm looking forward to working with them in the future. But it is hard, right? Like, it's hard to get on stage. It's hard to put your company out there. And as I was sitting there and I'm seeing about 300 hoteliers, as we like to call them. And these are people that have high influence or embedded in the hotel hospitality industry. And the winner of the contest would get a $5,000 check, which is cool. It may pay for the trip to get there. But really, when I sat back and looked at it, I was like, man, the exposure you get by putting yourself on the stage was huge. So that was a great post. So thank you, Shannon, for that. And then the last one, I normally do two, but every now and then I like to do three. But Chastity Pritchett, my good friend, we actually met on, Clubhouse back in COVID days when, everybody was just kind of like hanging tight. I don't even know if Clubhouse is still around, to be honest with you. But anyways, we were on some chat and found out that she was in Chesapeake and I was here, and then I got her connected to 757 Startup Studios. And one thing led to another, and we just been encouraging each other. So I want to encourage her because she's doing awesome. She posted Emblem Olive Oil, who she is the CEO and founder of, is working with the USDA to supply extra virgin olive oil to Native American communities. This contract not only recognizes the exceptional quality of our extra virgin olive oil, but also our commitment to sustainability and community impact. So it goes on a little bit more, but Chastity, you're doing a great job. And those who don't know her, please find her and make sure you become friends with her because she is doing some incredible stuff. Okay, so look, that wraps up our LinkedIn moment. And now we're going to roll into the next part, which is the most important part. Lionel, this is all about you. So thank you so much again for being on the show. And we are going to, I like to say, we're going to get a little intimate here. We're going to be talking about how you got to where you are and what you do. So let's talk about Lionel real quick. So he's self-started software engineer. You started diving into the tech world as a truck driver. So we're going to unravel that because that's awesome and nuts. What's funny is that I've always said to my wife, if something ever happened to my wife and kids, I would become a truck driver because I would just want to disappear and go and travel and see the world. So we're going to dive into that. And then after going into assembly hackathons, you landed yourself a job at Washington's Hammer, right? And then as a software engineer. So this is an incredible story. And then on top of that, you're creating a nonprofit organization, Blackathon. We're going to tackle that and figure out what that means and what you're trying to do there. And then you also are a YouTuber and you have, I guess you are a paid partner now. So you're going to help explain what that is. Maybe I'm missing out on an opportunity to get paid. I don't know. Probably not. And then we're going to talk more about who you are. So you ready? You ready to dive in?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, good, because I'm done talking. So Lionel, thanks, man. Thanks so much for being on the show. So let's start with first software engineer, right? What made you want to be a software engineer? Because you were a truck driver first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. I usually like to start the story from before I was a truck driver, right before I was a truck driver. For most of my 20s, I made my living as a freelance artist with video and photography.
Interesting.
Yeah, a starving artist, but I was having a blast.
Aren't they all?
Yeah, I was having a blast. And then I had my son, and that's what made me get into truck driving. I said, okay,
serious.
Yeah, let me, get support a family and everything. So I started truck driving. And at the same time, I was into crypto. I was buying crypto, got lucky on a coin at the right time. And while I was truck driving, that's how I came into Startup Studios. I started a crypto company called Blockchain Games. I
remember that. Yeah. I remember that. Okay.
Right. No matter what, I was always an artist and an entrepreneur at heart. Just couldn't, get rid of that. And so at the time, me and a couple of friends of mine went through a cohort here, with this idea. It was like a universal base income gaming metaverse NFT thing, but then crypto crashed. So it's very hard to pitch that idea when Bitcoin just went down 40K.
I could see where there's a problem with that.
Right. So, but that's what made me want to be a developer, because our biggest expense was the code review. That we had a team in India that was building our platform, and then I had to pay the code reviewer. And so I was always thinking, just the type of person I am, I lived off of YouTube tutorials, Final Cut, video editing, photo editing, all through my 20s. So I've always had the confidence that I could pick up and learn something. And I started building websites. I started learning how to code. Once I had to go back to work, when Bitcoin went down, I had to take my butt back to work and drive again 12 hours a day. You have a lot of time to yourself. Once you get tired of listening to music and, all the podcasts that you can listen to, I got into the coding side of YouTube. Came across this amazing organization called 100 Devs. It was started by a guy who went to Yale, and then he had a dream of helping 100 developers get hired. So he has a free online boot camp. The classes are very long, but it's perfect for me truck driving. I would just listen to them all day I drove.
You can learn coding by listening. You don't have to necessarily see it.
You can be extremely motivated to go home and practice when you get off.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, man, I think of like, and I'm sure coding is so different now, and but I remember back in my day, and I try not to always mention how young I am, but being 41 years old. Coding back in the day for me was 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0.
Binary.
Yeah, so I'm sure it's changed a little bit. So yeah, so I just think of like how many zeros and ones can you remember like while driving? That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like every month a new abstraction comes out, making it easier.
Yeah.
So if you're not afraid to bang your head against the wall,
yeah,
then you could learn how to code.
Yeah, I would assume that it's a it's a lot of hard work for sure. And you've got to really enjoy getting plugged in. Like, do you ever find yourself like almost like the Matrix, right? Like you just get soaked into this thing.
Yeah.
And like the world can be crumbling around you, but you're like so tapped in that you don't hear anything.
Yep. My first time opening up Terminal, which is that black screen where all the cool stuff happens, and then running a command and the Matrix stuff started happening. I was like, wow. I'm a developer.
That's awesome. So like, I have to I meant to mention this. So what I like about you so much, Lionel, is that you are and I mean this with the utmost respect, but you are a character. Like you could just tell that you just have a passion, you love people, and you enjoy talking to people. And that's not always the case with coders, right? Like a lot of coders are actually kind of introverts. They're not really extroverts, but you are an extrovert. And you even walked in here wearing an Ace Ventura shirt, which I can't love anymore. So it's like, so tell me, like, when being an engineer in software, do you find that you are set aside from the pack for the most part?
I think so. I think for sure. But I think that this also has played as a strength of mine, with my artist background, a little bit of, extrovert side of myself and my communication skills, because I wasn't like a 10-year-old programming servers who just went and got a computer science degree, wasn't not one of the basement guys, shout out to the real ones out there, the real wizards.
Yeah.
I'm like half and half. I'm like a hybrid. And because of that, not only do I communicate better with the team who doesn't code, but I also, can just communicate better in general with YouTube, that's tapping into the YouTube thing.
Yeah.
It's helped me connect to people in a different way than, the wizards do.
I love that you're open about this, because when Magazine Jukebox was infant stage, I had to meet with the tech team. So we linked up with Simple Thread out of Richmond. Their CEO, Justin Etheridge, is our CTO. They're also investors in the company now. But originally I met a gentleman named Brian Bassett, who's with the company. He's been with them for a long time. And so, but Brian very much is like you. Like, he understands code, but he also understands common language. And as I often joke with my team, anytime I say to, our tech side, and I say, hey, I need this done, blah, 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 it should be pretty simple. I always have to stop and say, look, I recognize when I say simple that it means it's complicated. Because it's got to be simple for the end user, but that means that there's typically 10 or 50 different things going on in the background to make it simple for the end user.
Right.
And so you having that gift is going to, I believe, expand your ability and your entrepreneurship tremendously, because not everybody has that. So I think it's awesome. So and it's encouraging to hear that, because so many times people think that getting into coding or getting into software engineer, that you have to go through all these degrees and you have to go through all kinds of schooling. And if you didn't start doing this by the time you were 10 years old, you can't possibly succeed. Right. But you're living proof that that's not the case. That you can literally be in a truck driving and learning code, which is, I still don't understand how your brain works that way. Like I could barely do one thing versus two things at once. So they okay. So but now fast forward, And you were in assemblies here. You're in a hackathon.
Mm-hmm.
And through that hackathon, you actually got picked up. Am I saying, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, or you applied, or somehow you were found
Afterwards,
after the
yeah.
hackathon?
Yeah, it's part of the YouTube boot camp I was in, which is 33-hour long lessons.
Wow.
Yeah, after lesson, I believe number 7, he basically said, okay, you guys know enough HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to go freelance. Start freelancing, hit up your grandma, whoever mows your lawn, whoever cuts your hair, make a website for them. You know, get out there, get your foot in the door. And then also go to meetups and go to hackathons.
Interesting.
And so I looked up, I didn't see any out there, unfortunately in this area. So I talked to Hunter because, I was still connected at Startup Studios about me starting my own.
Yeah.
But then I heard that there was actually one behind the scenes being built, the 757 build weekend, Jake Spratcher. So he connected me with them. I got friends that I need to back up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
Before that, one of the first homework that we had, which was really kind of taking me out of my comfort zone because I had never asked another dude to lunch before. But he was like,
that's not common.
Yeah, those hit up a developer that and take him out to lunch. And so I did that.
Everybody likes to eat, so that does make sense.
Right. Told him, hey, man, I'm trying to break in. I'm learning. I would love to pick your brain. Can I take you out to lunch? And I did. And then from there, he invited me to a book club, which was surrounded by developers. And then I went and applied for the hackathon. And I brought my team that I met through that first step from the book club. We came and we ended up winning the hackathon.
That's awesome. So I want to break that apart just real quick because I think it's important that listeners and viewers hear what you just said. You put yourself out there with someone that you didn't know, and you offered to grab them lunch to sit down and talk to them. And I think so many times we forget that, first of all, we're all human, and needing to make connection is super important. And I think also that those who are wanting to get into software engineering or any field, sometimes it's about building relationships more than it's actually applying for a job, right? And
Yes.
and so I encourage especially young viewers and listeners, like if they would just spend 50% of their time, if they spend 3 hours a day on social media, if they would just spend 50% of that on LinkedIn building networks and connections, their career when they graduate college or out of high school is going to be substantially stronger and more profitable for them as an individual because you're going to be surrounded by people that are truly vested or interested in watching you grow and thrive. And to me, it's amazing that you can meet someone today that has better interest and intent in your life than someone you've known your whole life.
Right.
And so you've got to recognize that. And sometimes you have some toxicity in relationships that you've got to clear out of your life too, because birds of a feather flock together. So it's like you got to remember like being around the right people. So you surround yourself with the right people. You're like, hey, I'm going to dive into this. Yep. You go to this book club, which is also interesting that it's a book club, and then you build this team that you would have never built if you wouldn't have asked this guy out for lunch.
Yep.
Right? That's still, I get it. Sounds weird saying that, but it makes sense. And so one thing triggered the other. So I'm reading a book called The Lean Startup, and I don't know if you've read it, but it's a great book, and I will post who the author is. But one of the chapters, I think it was chapter 5, maybe, or 4, somewhere in there, and it talked about like an engine, like startups being in a car engine. And you have to trigger that first spark in order to trigger the second spark. So in your case, that first spark was asking that person out to lunch, which triggered the second spark. And here we are today.
Yep.
Right? So it's crazy.
And then going to the book club because I had to work that day. So everything told me.
As a truck driver?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I was extremely late. I was going to Maryland, but just something told me like, I really need, that's how bad I wanted to, for one, stop truck driving. Like, truck driving is very important to this country and everything.
Absolutely.
But for myself, I began to feel trapped and confined inside that box, and you know, a little depressed. Depression was kicking in, doing the same thing every single day like that. I just don't belong as a truck driver, and so I was really fired up and really desperate, and I even took the longest lunch break ever. I had like my truck with tomatoes and lettuce and everything. I parked it, tried to park it away, and like had my laptop bag. You know, was embarrassed to be a truck driver, but went in there in the book club, you know, and I met the team. Everybody was awesome. And if it wasn't for and then it connects to Washington's Hammer too, because when I got the interview with Washington's Hammer, I had done enough freelancing. Sure, I had built a couple small businesses sites. I built a pallet management app for this warehouse that I used to work for as well. So I had, you know, what do you call it? Social proof from businesses that I had worked before, but I never had my own real role. And so I was honest with them about that. And I said, you know, I will be a great team member. You know, if there's a problem, I will figure it out. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not sure if I can really be the captain of this ship. But I do know a guy who can. You know, and this was the lead dev from my hackathon, Isaiah, who is brilliant. You know, he's one of the wizards out there. And he came with me to the interview. And, you know, with our powers combined, we were hired by Washington's Hammer.
That's awesome.
So,
man, like there's so many things you throw out, and I don't even know if you know that you're throwing them out. And I like to draw attention to it because I think it's important for listeners to hear what you just said. Right? You knew your lane, you knew your strengths, and just because you weren't able to be the captain, you did recognize that there needed to be a captain, and you were willing to put that captain out there, right, and to bring them on. And I think that that's brilliant, and also super encouraging, because so many times entrepreneurs, they tend to think that all that weight needs to be on their shoulders. They think that, and I'm gonna actually leverage this as an entrepreneur, but now as you're with Washington's Hammer, you're kind of like an intrapreneur, right? Like you're still very much driven, self-driven, but you do work for a company, and they have some expectations of you, and man, so the fact that you knew what your lane was, I think will prove to, especially down the road, will prove to make you that much stronger as a leader and as an entrepreneur. Because as a CEO of Magazine Jukebox, I oftentimes, whether I'm talking to our CPO or I'm talking to our COO or I'm talking to CTO, all the acronyms, or a director of marketing sales, there's so many times where I'll say, hey, look, I know what I need, but I'm not the one who's going to deliver that. I need you to deliver it. You figure it out. I don't even need to be involved. You just figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I have to trust my team to do that. And it sounds like that's exactly how you felt the same way. So, and you know, it's so encouraging. Like, so you talked about being a dad and you have a son. Is that, yeah. Yep. And what you're doing right now is laying the groundwork for his success. And I just applaud you for that, because there are not enough fathers right now that are willing to take risks, that are willing to put their children and their wife and their family first. And that sometimes means that you got to make a 180 abrupt stop and stop it, because being a truck driver required you to be out of town. I'm assuming you're gone, so you miss out on so many moments. And then oftentimes as dads, we get back and we don't recognize that while our job was hard, what their job was also very hard. Right. And raising a child is a job in itself, but it comes with the biggest blessings, as long as we continue to, lead the way in a positive way. So I applaud you, and I think it's awesome. So, Lionel, I want to make sure, because I feel like I could talk to you forever, so I want to make sure I get some other things out there too about this. But what would you say is what's your future plans right now? Because you guys are getting ready, so you had to get pushed back a little bit to launch. You guys are launching your platform, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it's a ship repair app called Killblock. Project management for ship repair, and we are set to launch in July. gonna start selling this thing, onboarding customers, as long as everything goes well.
Yep.
When I was brought on board, it was a MVP. Basically, our company went through TechStars program, got funded that way, and then that's when they reached out to the team to build, which came through my connections at Startup Studios. They were going through a cohort, or just about to go through a cohort, when they ended up going to another accelerator. But the people at Startup Studios knew that they were looking for engineers. And so I was actually tagged in a group chat. It was me, Ted Patterson, and Jake.
Yeah.
And it was like, whichever one of you guys have time, reach out, and I literally, right then at that moment when I read it, I reached out and got the interview that way. And, then we built it out. But when I inherited it, it really was just like bare bones, it was a pretty face with no real like inner working functionality in there. So that's when we had to build all of the user stuff, the admin page, billing history, all the things that you expect to see with the project.
Yeah.
And now we're, what was it? I would say 6 months later, we're gearing up for launch here now, 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like 6 or 7 months seems like a long time for anybody who's trying to start a company, because they're like, hey, go. But then when 6 or 7 months comes, it's like, man, that time flew. Like I've never experienced time flying so fast, except for now building a company that never existed before. I mean, it's like to me, it just blows my mind that we created, or we had this idea 4 years ago. 4 years ago, and I'm sitting there going, what the heck? I mean, my oldest son, who's about to be 8, was 4 years old. My youngest wasn't even here. Wow. My daughter was 2 years old. And I mean, I'm just sitting there going, and if you didn't do the math, I have 3 kids, boy, girl, boy. So they're 8, 6, and 3. But yeah, it's time will absolutely fly. Okay, so you guys are getting ready to now you're going to get ready to launch. What's that like? Like, are you nervous? Are you excited?
It's a mixture of the two. Yep, a mixture of nervous and exciting, and hoping that everything works perfectly as it should. Testing, and you saw me in there, sweating bullets.
Sure.
In the co-working space downstairs. But I'm super thankful. Feel blessed to be able to be a part of this. And to be able to build something, this is my dream come true. With the way, I just imagine myself being a developer. Here I am, one now with the product about to launch. And it's a great product. I'm proud of it. I feel like it's my baby now. I know every organ and cell of it, inside, outside, every single file. I know intimately. I've lived in that code base for the past 7 months. So I can't wait for us to start getting users, and then to be on the back end, seeing what that looks like, as requests are coming in and, stuff is happening. It's going to be awesome.
Man, it is going to be awesome. And I'm excited. I'm going to be cheering you guys on all along the way. And but even more so, I'm cheering you on. I'm really proud of you, and I just think that you're doing some incredible stuff, man. And I'm thankful to know you and be able to watch your journey. So okay, so let's. I know one of your passions is coming up, or it's one of the things that you have kind of on the burner right now. That's and rightfully so. You need to. There's, and I try not to get too philosophical, but Bible says, hey, you can't serve 2 masters. You need to make sure you focus on one. Mm-hmm. And so right now you're doing exactly that focus. But you have this passion that you want to bring to light at some point called Blackathon. Yes. Tell me about that.
Okay, so the idea came from the hackathon that we won. And like I said, I'm an artist. I have a very artistic background, so I look at things a little bit differently. And being involved in the hackathon, I just have a different lens of what I felt like could have been added to it. Right. Let's just say it that way. I love music, as you. I felt part of the hackathon. I felt like we were coding inside airport security. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I just imagine how awesome it would be coding at a cookout. That side of my culture that I love. And in also, unfortunately, whenever I go to tell my story to my friends, people who come from where I come from, they're like, "What the heck is a hackathon?"
Yeah.
But really, hackathons have been around since, I don't want to say the Stone Age, but for a long time.
Well, people forget that hackathons, everybody enjoys Facebook, although I'm not on it, but Zuckerberg was doing hackathons 20 years ago.
Right.
20 years ago. I mean, I think about, I'm 41. That was I was 21 when they were doing hackathons, and I wasn't even
right.
I was thinking construction, not anything to do with computers or tech or anything.
Yeah, so it's a very college, educated, very it's a if you know kind of thing. Yeah. But there's a lot of people who don't know about it, and that's where the idea of Blackathon came from. Granted, the name may make other people feel like they're not invited, but they are, which is a marketing hurdle we're gonna have to figure out.
Yeah.
I know once the content from our kickoff mixer comes out, people will be able to see like, oh, okay, it's not like Wakanda or anything in there.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, like we get it. Like Magazine Jukebox pigeonholes us to magazines, right? But we offer games, trivia, and soon we'll have sports on there. And so we understand that it pigeonholes us a little bit. So we just have to do a good job at making sure we explain that.
Right. One of the sayings that my team, we keep bringing out there is that we want to hide the broccoli in the cake. That's basically what we're doing with a hackathon.
Who came up with that? Sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Right.
But that would probably get my kid to actually eat broccoli. So yeah.
We're bringing people, having them have fun. It's going to be art there. It's going to be performances there. But then you're also going to meet people who can build.
That's awesome.
And and find your way in there. We're set to do the Blackathon in October.
Okay. Great.
And up until then, we're holding classes and little social gatherings and meetups, promoting it and talking about it and trying to encourage people.
That guerrilla type warfare tactic of, you're going to, get on the floor and meet people. I think that's a tactic that has not, or that, kind of went away and needs to come back. Like something as simple as, everybody gets emails now, right? But can you, like, when you get a handwritten card, it's like, whoa, what is that? Mm-hmm. So it's like having to do things. My father-in-law often says, he goes, you want to learn something new, read an old book. And it's because there's so much history to be read and that we forget about. I also, I didn't coin the phrase, I don't know who said it, but I was like, if you want to find some of the best ideas in the world, go to a cemetery because they all die. Mm-hmm. Like people don't bring them to light, and you're bringing them to light. And that's super positive and important because most people won't take the risk of doing it. So, well, look, we'll post on that. You can share some more information on that. I think it's awesome, and we'll learn more. This show can go on and on. I feel like I could talk to you forever. I feel like I have a new friend, and Lionel, I really appreciate you being on the show. But this is the time of the show where I'm going to go into what I call pick your poison. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. It's meant to be lighthearted, but sometimes it comes across as a little rough to answer some questions here. Okay, so here we go. All right, so would you rather, or pick your poison, be chronically underdressed or overdressed? Cool. Man, that's a tough one,
really
right?
Tough
like,
one.
Like, can you imagine every time you go to play basketball, you come in a 3-piece suit? You know what I mean?
Right.
Or if you go, or if you you come to a wedding and you're wearing your pajamas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I'm pretty. I feel like I'm always underdressed. That I've been in that position so many times. I'm gonna say I would rather be underdressed than overdressed, just because it's more of my comfort zone. But if you're talking pajamas, I don't know. I don't know about that one.
You gotta own it, no matter what it is. Right. All right, so you're gonna pick underdress, and I'm gonna be there right with you. So I always said when I left corporate world, I said I'll never put on a suit and tie again, except for weddings and funerals. And I actually have a wedding coming up that is a formal wedding, and it's outside, and it's in September, and I'm like, some people just don't like me.
It's gonna be a sweaty one.
Oh my gosh, but it'll be incredible. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, next one. Would you rather, or pick your poison here? Have everyone you know be able to read your thoughts, or for everyone you know to have access to your internet history? Oh, these ones are tough, man. I'm telling you, these ones are tough.
I'll go with the internet history over reading my thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah, thoughts feel like more private than internet history even.
Yeah, I'm right there along with you. It's funny. My wife and I do so much together. And actually, we do everything together. She's my best friend. And it's always, I see those like on Instagram where they'll like come up to a random couple and they'll say, hey, do you guys trust each other? And they're like, yeah, okay, will you swap phones? Yeah, and they do. And it like ruins relationships. And I'm like, man, my wife can. I was like, I have my phone is connected to my laptop, to my iPad. I was like, if I leave my iPad around all the time. Like if she wanted to see something on there, go for it. So internet history would win it for me too. So look, man, that was great. Those are hard ones.
Yeah, they were.
So well done. But look, this brings us to the end of the show now. Thank you to all of our listeners and viewers. Thank you, Lionel, for being here. This is an incredible story. Truck driver to entrepreneur. Well, I mean, many truck drivers are entrepreneurs too, but you know, truck driver to software engineer to following your passion, being a leader. And changing the world, man. We all change the world one person at a time. So you're doing that, and I'm excited to see what comes. So good luck to you, and keep us in the loop, okay? Don't be a stranger. But
thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
this is awesome.
Absolutely. So hey, everybody, thanks again for joining us. Magazine Jukebox, again, entertainment for commercial businesses, and MJB podcast. Make sure you like, share, comment. And if you want to be on the show, you could also find us and be on the show. I don't really even remember where the sign up is, but it's somewhere on our website. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.